up? IB in the building, and we back for another video. Now I'm back with another playoff preview. This is the 3-6 matchup out west, Denver versus Utah. Some important points here. I want to talk about Utah's offense. It was pretty good throughout the regular season, top third in the league when you look at offensive efficiency, but in the bubble it looked stagnant during a lot of times. There were a couple games in which they didn't have their full team. They didn't play their players like Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Joe Ingles. But during games in which they had most of their star players, their offense did look stagnant. And a lot of that can be attributed to Bojan Bogdanovic being out. He suffered an injury, I think, during training before going into the bubble. And Bojan was a player that was a consistent source of 20 points per game for that Utah Jazz team during the regular season before suspension, getting that point total efficiently with a lot of clean looks from three. Boban provided shot creation and three-point shooting that was vital for this Utah team. With him being out of the lineup, players like Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert are going to have a higher offensive load. And I have to give some credit to Mike Conley for stepping up throughout the bubble. He has done so in several games. He's had upwards of 20 points. And when I say Rudy Gobert has to step up, I know he gets 15 points a game basically off of drop-off passes in the pick and roll or lob situations, but I know Rudy Gobert is limited in terms of his offensive game, but he's going to have to be aggressive in terms of having somebody help make up for that missing 20 points per game in the starting lineup. He's going to have to do more than simply finish pick and roll opportunities. He's going to have to punish switches in the low post. A lot of teams do switch wings onto Rudy Gobert because he doesn't have much of a post game, or he's not confident in it. With Bogdanovic not in the lineup, he's going to have to be a bit more aggressive when he gets those mismatches. And also bench scoring is going to have to help pick up the slack. That bench unit, scoring wise, is led by Jordan Clarkson, who was a really good addition during the middle of the regular season when they made that trade with Cavs, bringing him in. He was a great addition for that team. He had a lot of scoring bursts off the bench for that Utah Jazz team that was vital in a lot of wins for them. This postseason is going to be no different. They're still going to need his scoring output. Him, along with other guys off the bench, Georges Niang, Emmanuel Mudiay, and Tony Bradley. And then we finally get to the face of the franchise, Donovan Mitchell. He's going to have to be the guy for this team. He is the best player on this team. He'll give you about 25 points on a normal basis, but I think they're going to need more from him. And it's going to be tougher on him to do so with a lot more of the defensive focus on him with Bojan Bogdanovic, the secondary shot creator, out for the entire postseason, which again raises the importance of Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert being more aggressive, taking some pressure and taking some eyes off of Spida. Then we get into the Jazz three-point shooting. That's going to be another key source of offense for them to make up for the loss of Bojan. Throughout the regular season, they led the league in three-point percentage on the 10th most attempts, so the three ball was an important part of their offense, but again, a big reason for that was Bojan Bogdanovic. On the Denver side of things, I'm really interested to look at their lineups with the emergence of MPJ balling out, scoring about 20 points per game on an efficient level. Bol being more than just a meme player, being an actual player that can be impactful in a game. Also with Will Barton and Gary Harris, two members of their original starting lineup that are injured. PJ Dozier has emerged as a key rotational player thus far in the bubble. It's going to be interesting to see who plays and who sits, or whose minutes get cut throughout this playoff series, and if they do make it past the Jazz playoff series moving forward. Is Mike Malone going to take MPJ out of the game because of a couple defensive miscues? Is Bol going to get taken out of the game because he might be getting punished on the glass or in pick and roll defense? It's going to be interesting to see how Mike Malone handles his young ascending stars in the playoffs. I also want to talk about this interesting matchup of the two bigs, the two centers on the team, Gobert versus Jokic. Jokic is obviously one of the more offensive gifted players in the entire league. He can score on all three levels, especially in the low post. Now, we saw a game of Denver versus OKC in the bubble where he was going against Steven Adams, one of the better defensive centers in the entire league, and he basically schooled him. He was crafty and skilled enough to get his shots in the low post. And we'll see if he's able to do that against Gobert, which many people consider the best defending center in the entire league. And not just Jokic in the low post, but Jokic's shooting ability. Is it going to limit Gobert's defensive impact? Because Gobert is the player that he is, the all-star caliber player that he is, because of what he does on the defensive side of the ball. That is his main source of production. And if you have a center that's not allowing him to do what he does on the defensive side of the ball, not allowing him to roam around the rim and block shots, that's his main impact. Jokic standing at the three-point line will take that away from him. And not just Jokic standing at the three-point line without the ball, Jokic standing at the three-point line with the ball. He's still going to have to guard him. He's still going to have to pressure him because Jokic is that much of a three-point shooting threat. And not just Jokic's shooting, his playmaking on the perimeter. Again, Jokic's shooting allows forces Gobert to have to play tight. Or not just Gobert, every center in the entire league. His shooting forces centers to play tight on him on the perimeter, which allows baseline cuts, off-ball action leading to open layups. There's no other center in the entire league that you would want quarterbacking that type of action than Jokic, who's always able to pass his players open to open layups. Players like Paul Millsap, Michael Porter Jr., and Jamal Murray, which are players that have improved in their ability to get open off the ball because of passing from Jokic. Another thing I want to talk about is Jokic's pick and roll defense. We saw last year in the playoffs, Portland really attacked that weakness. Will the Jazz do the same? I assume so, because so much of their offense comes off of Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert pick and rolls. And if so, and I assume they do attack that weakness, how will the Nuggets adjust? Will they take Jokic off of Gobert, maybe put him on, who would be starting in the starting lineup, Royce O'Neal, and put Millsap on Gobert for that pick and roll action? We'll have to see how Mike Malone adjusts that. Now let's talk about advantages on offense. I got the Nuggets having the advantage here. They have the 5th best offensive rating in the entire league, and that's because they have so many offensive weapons, so many efficient ways of scoring. Just looking at Jokic, like I said, he can score on all 3 levels. He can score on the low post, in the pick and roll, or pick and pop, or with Jokic as the pick and roll ball handler in that inverted pick and roll between him and Jamal Murray, or him and MPJ. Or Jokic can quarterback off-ball cuts, Jamal Murray's off-ball movement, Murray-Jokic screen action either way, MPJ off-ball cuts, MPJ pick and rolls, MPJ off-ball action. They have a lot of diverse ways of scoring. Those were just a few of them. I could go on and on. The spacing that comes from their big man position of Jokic, Millsap, and Bol Bol opens the floor for their guards to penetrate, like Jamal Murray, Monte Morris, 2 really good point guards on the ball in terms of breaking down their defenders. And they also have playmaking, like I said, Jamal Murray, Monte Morris at the point guard position, Jokic, the best passing center this league has ever seen, and Plumlee, the bench center, is a really good playmaking center. And you can even throw Bol Bol into that kind of playmaking big man mold. He's spotted a lot of passes, whether it's in the full court or the half court set. And they may get Will Barton back in the middle of the series. He's a microwave type of player, instant offense that can give you about 16 points per game in 28 minutes. Yeah, simply the Nuggets have so many ways of scoring that might overwhelm or trump the Utah Jazz's offense, a team that simply just does not have that many ways of scoring compared to the Nuggets, again because of the injury of Bojan Bogdanovic, which will be very costly. Most of the offense will fall on the back of Donovan Mitchell. So players like Mike Conley and Joe Ingles will have to step up as reliable secondary ball handlers / shot creators. On the defensive side of the ball, the Jazz have the advantage here. They were the 13th best defensive rated team, and you'd expect it to be higher with a defensive player of the year candidate like Rudy Gobert, and they have good on-ball defenders like Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley, and Joe Ingles. However, their defense just falls off a cliff when Gobert is off the court. Yet their defense in general as a whole is still better than the Nuggets defense, because in the Nuggets starting lineup you have Jamal Murray, Jokic, and MPJ, who aren't the best one-on-one defenders. Murray and Jokic have gotten better over the years, but MPJ is still bad on that end, and those 3 will log a lot of minutes together. The Gary Harris injury is kind of big for their defense. He's honestly their top 3 perimeter defenders on that team, especially in the starting lineup, and it doesn't look like he's going to come back. At least he's not going to come back in the beginning of that series. And then you have defenders like Millsap and Torrey Craig, and there's only so much that they can do by themselves. So yeah, Utah Jazz have the advantage on defense. On the bench, Nuggets have the advantage. I don't know exactly what their bench will look like because they have players that have emerged recently. They're young players. We don't know how much Mike Malone will play them. And then we have players that are injured that used to be starters but might have to be demoted to a bench role once they get back because of the people that have been inserted into the starting lineup that are balling out. But I do know that Monte Morris will be off the bench. He's been coming off the bench the entire season. He was starting for a couple of bubble games when Jamal Murray wasn't back. But Monte Morris is one of the better, or he's probably one of the best backup point guards in the entire league. He gets a lot of assists with a few amount of turnovers per game, good assist to turnover ratio. He's a solid shooter. Yeah, he's just a good all-around backup point guard. Then you have Jeremy Grant. He's one of the better all-around players in the entire league. He's a great shooter, great slasher, very athletic, and he's great on the defensive side of the ball. His size allows him a lot of switchability, which is vital in today's league. Then you have Mason Plumlee. I already talked about his ability as a great playmaker at the center position. He's also a great rebounder, a great pick and roller, and a solid defender. Mason Plumlee is one of the better backup centers in this entire league. And then you have young guys like Bol Bol and PJ Dozier who have emerged during this bubble. Both are young, skilled guys that might provide a few minutes. I don't think Mike Malone will really trust them in a playoff situation. And then, like I said, Will Barton, if he does come back at some point, he's that spark plug that can provide a lot of scoring in a short amount of time, and he's a solid playmaker as well. You look at the Jazz team, they're just not as deep as the Nuggets. JC is a great sixth man. He provides shot creation and scoring and shooting ability. But after that, it's pretty bleak. Like Georges Niang, he's basically just a catch and shoot or catch and drive guy. Emmanuel Mudiay, he's a good backup point guard, but I definitely have Monte Morris over him. And then Tony Bradley is an okay backup center. They just don't have that many guys that can do as much as the Nuggets bench can do. When you look at coaching, I guess I have a tie here. I'd say that both Mike Malone and Quinn Snyder are in the top third of coaching. So here in coaching, I don't really have a clear advantage in my opinion. But when you look at just general talent, the Nuggets by far have the advantage here. They have the best player on the floor, which is Nikola Jokic, and they just have more talent dispersed throughout their entire starting lineup and bench. I think I already said this, but they simply have more guys that can just do more than one thing. On Utah, you have a lot of specialists, catch and shoot players, hustle players, or defenders. Nuggets have players that can do more than one thing, 2 or 3 things at a very high level. So for my pick, I have the Nuggets winning the series. I don't think they'll do it in a sweep. I'll say that I'll have them winning in about 6 games. It's just because of the talent and depth that the Nuggets have and the offense that has kind of struggled for the Jazz in the bubble. I think it will struggle as they play a playoff defense. I think the Nuggets playoff defense will be a bit more or a bit better than what we've seen in the regular season. And yeah, at the end of the day, the Nuggets just have quite a few more weapons than Utah. That Bogdanovic injury really is going to come back to haunt them. That's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and if you're new here, subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Anyways, like I was saying, thanks for watching. It's been your boy IB. I'll catch y'all later. Peace.